was a sting operation, and the kind of money which is being pumped in by Pakistan and the way these stone pelters are paid.
Can we leave Pakistan aside for a second, please, sir? I want to ask you again. Should they be treated the same as Hizbul Mujahideen? Should they be treated as terrorists because they're throwing stones at security forces, especially teenagers?
If a line of denial has been given, they should not be crossing that. And if in case any projectile is thrown, whether stone or even petrol bomb for that matter, that is being hurled at the security forces, well, the SOP is there. He will warn the crowd and he will open up with one single shot to give a message, do not cross this line. And if they do, the second round is fired. It is not that automatic fire is fired at these people.
Okay,
they're supposed to adhere.
The future demographics of East Jerusalem could be in for a major shakeup if a recently revealed Israeli plan takes hold. Sources in Israel say the plan will separate the Shofat refugee camp from the Jerusalem municipality. Kafr Aqab, which lies to the city's north, would also be affected. The reasoning behind the move, according to the source, to preserve Jerusalem's Jewish majority. I asked our two guests what the plan could mean for the city's future.
It's part of a systematic approach that Israel has been using since 50 years, which is to try to...
Neighborhoods became under Israeli rule 50 years ago. They were given not citizenship, but permanent residence in this area. They could apply for citizenship, very few have. So you will not remove citizenship from him. But again, if you take parts of the city and they will no longer be parts of Israel, of course, the Palestinians living in them will not have permanent residence in Jerusalem. This is evidence. Now, you don't need a secret plan for it. This is what could happen. If it will happen, there will be public debate in Israel about it, since this is an open society and everything comes out in the open. I will be delighted if it happens, because it means Jerusalem will be smaller, but it will contain much less Palestinians. So if the Palestinians really want to become citizens of Israel, this is a new game, and we have to discuss it again.
Okay.
But what is happening in Jerusalem is you have Jews and you have Arabs, and the Arabs don't have a right to become Israeli citizens unless their part is part of the state of Israel.
Okay, so you've made your point. Now let's bring in Mustafa Barghouti. Mustafa Barghouti, you don't have a right, you don't have a say. This is Israel's. They annexed it in 1980. It's their city. They can do what they want to with it.
This is Israel, and this is
that's
apartheid.
Not what I
exactly.
Said. I said
imagine
that
a situation. Imagine a situation. Imagine a situation where Greece. Will you shut up so that I can speak now? Shut up. Imagine a situation where Greece is occupying now a Turkish city, let's say Istanbul. And then they declare that the residents of Istanbul are not residents of their own city, but they are temporary residents. And then they take away their land, they take away their homes, and then they tell them you don't have the right to be in Istanbul. This is exactly what Israel is doing to Jerusalem. They occupied the city in 1967 illegally, by force, by war, which is a violating of international law. And then they annexed the land and declared the citizens as temporary residents. And then if they are taking away their right to be residents of the city.
Okay.
This is not only apartheid, this is a criminal act in every possible way. Okay. And I think we will hold them responsible. One day they will be responsible for war crimes that they are committing against Palestinians by establishing and sustaining this system of apartheid.
Okay, if you allow me, if we can just agree on some baselines of this discussion. Now, you both have different historical arguments backing your claims, but if we can, because you took issue with me saying Israel annexed it in 1980, you can do what you want to. I'm not making this up myself.
No.
Israel did annex it in 1980. Nobody else recognizes Jerusalem as the united capital of Israel except for Israel. So I'm only mentioning it as a fact based on UN mandates. I'm not making this up. So can we accept that the annexation happened and that nobody else recognizes it except for Israel?
These people got Israeli permanent residence when their neighborhoods became part of the Israeli Jerusalem. If one day, and by the way, there is no plan for it, and I'm sorry there is no plan for it, but there is no plan for it. But if one day, say Beit Hanina or Shawafat will no longer be part of Israel, then the people living in Beit Hanina and in Shawafat will no longer have permanent residence inside Israel. It is self-evident, and it only stands to reason. I mean, if somebody wants to say that Palestinians have the right to have permanent residence in Israel because they feel like it, even if their neighborhoods are not part of Israel, I think it's a ridiculous argument.
Okay, Mustafa Barghouti, why not accept them being absorbed under the Palestinian Authority and hopefully they become citizens of a Palestinian state in a two-state solution?
We don't want to be part of Israel. We don't want to have residency in Israel, but they are occupying our land. East Jerusalem is occupied by Israel. They have to get out of all East Jerusalem, including the old city, which is Palestinian by international law. They have to end the occupation, and then nobody will have a problem with them. But the reality is that they annexed all these territories, then they squeezed the people inside the old city and inside big parts of Jerusalem. They don't give them the rights to build. They don't allow them to build in these places. They force them to go out to these neighborhoods around Jerusalem. And after they went out, now they want to cut these areas and say to them, you are no more residents of your own city, Jerusalem.
Iranian-backed Shia militias are gaining ground across Iraq, and this week their advance reached the Syrian border. We asked Iraq's former defense minister Ali Alawi if there was a danger in allowing Shia militias to fill the vacuum left by Daesh.
There's obviously a great deal of damage done by the Allied bombing, and sometimes it reaches to the death of innocent civilians. There's no hiding that. And there's no doubt also that there are rogue elements within the popular mobilization forces which are out of control and do commit acts of violence, of death, of rapine. I'm not trying to deny that or belittle that. But these acts cannot be compared to the 45,000 people killed as a result of suicide bombing in Iraq, or the tens of thousands killed deliberately by Daesh, including something like 1,800 in cold blood. Neither can be compared to the losses that are being given by brave fighters who are defending their country. Last week I was in the holy town of Najaf, where every hour there are about 5 to 7 coffins brought in for their last rites. These were all popular mobilization forces fighting in this war against global terror. So I can't see the basis of this equivalence, which I do not accept.
Okay, so you're saying I'm making a false equivalence. And again, to be absolutely clear, to be absolutely fundamentally clear, Daesh is, on another level in terms of its depravity. But you're saying I'm making an equivalence here. The Iraqi Prime Minister has also made this equivalence on May the 20th. TEDx Baghdad.
No, he didn't. I'm sorry. This is not correct.
I've got his exact words.
There were rogue elements.
Sure, but I've got his exact words. He said they want their gangs. Can I quote him and then let's talk? They want their gangs to become stronger than the state and society, so they can control the resources of the people by force, by threat of weapons. If you raise your voice against them, they will kidnap you. Don't try to fool us by saying that we belong to the same sect. Didn't ISIS say that they were protecting the Sunnis? Wasn't this their method? Weren't these their lies, right? So he made this equivalence, he said, and understandly, he's talking about elements within them. But these are people committing atrocities. He's making an equivalence.
This is really selective. This is really selective quotation.
Tell me why I'm wrong.
The popular mobilization forces are part and parcel of the government apparatus. They report directly to the Prime Minister. So he's unlikely to condemn 150,000 people to this kind of categorization. He's talking about the rogue elements, which I have just said, are responsible for outrages and atrocities. But they number probably in the hundreds, not in the tens of thousands or the hundreds of thousands that you've seemed to have implied. Now, these people, yes, I would not put them in the same category as Daesh. I'd put them in the same category as terrorists, those who have bedeviled and have ruined our country over the last 14 years. Daesh is not a category of criminality. And so far, they haven't yet reached that kind of organized depravity that we were talking about.
Sure. So even if it is hundreds, you mentioned hundreds, we have hundreds of these people fighting for Iraq, doing unspeakable things as they're fighting Daesh as well, persecuting Sunnis based on a sectarian basis, right? And then we have coalition airstrikes that are killing hundreds
No, not
of
right.
civilians.
I'm sorry, I don't accept that.
You said
I don't
hundreds.
accept that. A lot of these people, a lot